Anthony Getch here with Excel Hypnosis, and we are back for week number 2, session number 2 with Matt Dixon, who is from Missouri, and we met on Facebook. Well, I think that I think I saw you at Hypno Thoughts, maybe. There goes my phone. Turn that off. And at any rate, you decided to go ahead and be a brave soul and throw yourself to the wolves and come and do some control work live. And here we are, week number 2, and I'm going to start with you the same place I start with every single client like I would. Question number 1. First things first, how are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, I've been on time everywhere.
You've been on time everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what does that mean? What does that mean? Because I know what on time meant for you before, right? What does it mean as far as you're on time everywhere now? Are you showing up with just the nick of skin, or are you actually giving yourself that room that you were looking for?
Well, it's skin, but it's thicker skin.
Oh, right on. Hey, so let's just do this. This being 0, this being 10. Okay. On my side here, I didn't get any of the changes I wanted, or 10. You got all of the changes you wanted. Tell me where to stop on this resultometer. 0 being I didn't get any of the changes. 10, I got all of the changes. Where would you stop that?
7.
7. Okay. What would make it a 10?
Having the extra, getting there with extra time.
Okay.
So I'm leaving for everything earlier. I'm doing everything to get ready earlier. I'm still racing the clock a little bit. And so when I race the clock, I feel like I'm working, other than the possibility that I could be, late. I feel like I'm working well. Like, like my brain is firing. I'm firing. I work good under pressure, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm still giving myself a little bit of pressure, but it's way less. So
then what would make it a 10?
I've been thinking about that, and
I want even less pressure than that. I mean, right? I mean, because at what point does it become a decision that if I don't have the pressure, right? This is kind of a whole thing when we even talk about anxiety with people, right? If I don't have some anxiety, then what's going to drive you to do better? Right? And so where does that part, and that's something we didn't really discuss that first time around, is where does that lie? Is that does that part feel that, okay, if I don't have any fuel to add to this fire of importance to being there, and if being a 0 means that, well, we don't give a shit, now we're late everywhere, sort of thing, or where we just remove that part of it, we have to be able to identify what is okay for you in that part. So what does that mean specifically for you, right? Because if you need that, then that's something you want to keep, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. I feel like I want to. So that's a goal line, right? So there's it's a border of sorts, and I want to move the border towards me so that I can so that I don't want there to be any risk that I'm going to be late. And right now there's maybe just like a 30% or 30 or 40% chance I'm going to be late. Whereas before there was a 95% chance I was going to be late.
Okay, well, I mean, that's an amazing. Well, I want you to look at the gain on that, right? I mean, after a week, that's amazing. Um,
I am happy
so
with that. Yeah.
at this point, why? What can you think of um, as the benefit of not allowing that same thing to just fall over to there being no risk? I mean, I want to put this together.
Okay.
Um, so what is the difference between the times when you're what is the difference between that 30 to 40% that you're experiencing, you know, the other part, what is going to be, what needs to be different about those times that is going to create the opportunity for you to um, implement the new behavior pattern? Does that make sense? Is it what I'm asking? So if you're
I
doing it
think so.
70% of the time, if you're doing it 70% of the time, right? What's different between those times that you're doing it the 70% and the times that you're falling back on the old way of kind of doing it, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
Is there, does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So like if I forget my phone or my wallet, then in this day and age, that's a thing where you'd go back and get it. There's there's things that like I like a like my water cup. Like I drink hot water, you know, and then throughout the day, like warm water. And so like if I'm doing well, but I don't have the, you know, I don't have my hot water, then this is before a session. I'd be like, oh, I gotta get my hot water. And then I'll take the time to do that. And like, oh, here I go again. You know what I mean? And then I'm late. So now what's different is I'll be like, my hot water, nope. And I'll leave, you know. Um
Okay.
my Yeah, so like even if it's my wallet, I think one time it was no, it wasn't my wallet. Excuse me, it was my headphones. So if want my headphones to work out with, and and it's like, well, I guess I'm not wearing headphones. I'm not working out to my music today. I'm working out to whatever I hear. And so that has been pretty big.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
made a
it
huge
sounds like
difference.
it. And so you're
Yeah,
able, how often were you able to show up at these places with a little bit of time to spare?
hardly ever. Like, hardly ever. Like maybe never. Like maybe
Okay.
I can't I can't think of any regularity with it, if that makes sense.
Over the past week?
Over the past week, every single time. Every single time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
I thought
I was like, okay, wait a minute. We're.
yeah, every single
So
time.
there was, well, and I want you to think about that. I mean, I would like to say that, yay, that's perfect every single time, but apparently it's not every single time. Otherwise we wouldn't, there wouldn't be that, we wouldn't be at a 7, we would be at a 10, right? Um, so most of the time you are able to show up, then it sounds like with time to spare. I just want to make sure that I'm getting this down, because that's really what the goal was. The how will you know is I'll be on time with a little bit of time to spare. And so I want to know how close to that did we actually get, right? And then this allows us then to, because the part did what we wanted to do, and through the week, how often were you kind of celebrating that fact that, oh, look at this, we did it again, we can do this, right? And give yourself that nod, that nod of approval that we talked about, right?
Yeah, like pretty much every time. Yeah, so
Okay.
I have time to spare from where I'm going. It's time enough that I can set my stuff down, So I'm training a client. I can set my stuff down, and I can peep the gym and decide where I'm going to go. I have time for that.
Yeah.
It's not lots of time. It's not. I don't have the kind of time where I can set my stuff down, and I can walk and go, maybe the
Right.
and
But that's not, I don't think that that's what you were looking for, was it? I mean, but here's when I
no, I
say that, that's not even for me to really to deter. I mean, that's for you to deter which of these, and that's why I say for you on a scale of where was it, because that's what's important. Again, your idea and my idea of what those are for our own personal things, those don't have to match, right? Are you getting what you want from this? That's the big question. So now moving forward, taking it to a 10 is going to be no risk that you're going to be late at all. Is that true?
yes,
Okay.
correct.
And when you say no risk that I'll be late at all, do you, I want to think about how what exactly does that mean to you? I want you to describe to me what it means for you to have no risk that you're going to be late. How does that play out? How are you going to know that that's what's happening? Tell me how you're going to know that that's happening.
When so like construction, and the on the way to work, construction and a backup. There's construction on my route. Um, and Okay, so Anthony, so my early morning appointments, the ones where I the first one when I leave the house, the 6 a.m. or like the 7 a.m. Those I'm showing up about 2 or 3 minutes early, which for me is an enormous amount of time.
Well, you're there on time. I mean, that gives,
Yes,
I don't think that
yes,
that's
and
bad. I think that's awesome.
thank you. Me too. And those are the ones that I'm pushing it a little bit. So like if there's if there's something if there's a backup, at 6 in the morning, then I'll be like, oh crap. You know what I mean? I, but in the afternoon, in fact, just today there was a backup, and instead of like riding the right lane and being like trying to get in, I was like, meh, and I had time to, you know what I mean? So the seven, as it were, I think is only happening like in the morning, in the earliest morning.
Okay. All right. Um, and it only happens on occasion early in the morning, yeah? Because of an off thing. Is that true? I want to make sure I understand this. How often is there traffic in the morning that's going to hold you up?
Um, hardly ever. That's just an
Okay.
example of,
So if it's hardly ever, so then that's what I was looking for. So if it's hardly ever,
okay.
then and you've kind of created your routine around what is expected, what we've determined to be normal, right?
Mhm.
What is generally happening, and then something happens outside of that norm that only happens once a month, once every couple of weeks, then is it is it outside of the realm of possibilities to handle it the same way that you do when you're in the middle of the afternoon and you know that there's already going to be traffic? Because what is the difference? How can you control what is happening then any more than what you can control what is happening in the afternoon when you can just sit by and let it go by and not have a big deal? Do you see what I'm saying?
Are you
So go ahead. Because
are you asking me,
go ahead, go ahead.
like how can I control the traffic, or how can I control what I do before I leave?
Well, there isn't anything you can do. is what I'm suggesting. Is it not easier to you're never going to be able to know that you're always going to have enough time in the morning. You're never going to be able to know that because it's so it's it's sporadic when something happens in the morning suggesting. So
That's right.
how are you going to know? Because that's the fact. When it happens, it just happens, right? So it's easier to just to go, okay, this happened. They may be stuck in the same traffic I am. That's just the way that it is. That's why I have a cell phone, so I can call my client and say that this is what's taken place. Now all we can do is that, right? That seems
Yes.
like the easier option than trying to control. I'm going to make sure I leave extra early every third Wednesday because there might be an accident on the street today. Um, does that make sense? Or am I looking at your am I looking at the challenge the wrong way when it comes to being late in the morning? Because if it's just sporadic, if it's nothing, if it's outside of your control, it's outside of your control, right? And you can't plan
Um,
for that.
well, I've been thinking about this, like as you were talking, and so and I've been thinking about this, like you know, during the week, and as I, as driving into work with a sense of urgency, but not a sense of like of panic. You know what I mean? And 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 I've been thinking like what could I be doing differently? And then and so consciously I began to see like forever like people would say like lay your clothes out before you go to bed. And I'd be like, shut up. You know what I mean? Like who doesn't know to do, oh wow. And then I would get and then I would be then I would
Oh
think
my
like
God, that's the magic cure for everybody. You're right.
yeah, I would say yeah, and I would think like
That's all
oh
it
yeah,
took.
why don't you write a book? Yeah, that's you're really you know, and I would dismiss it. And then as I was
Uh,
as as I was on my way in, one or two times I got to thinking like, well that they're right. That's exactly what I should do. I should prepare everything and I'm not doing that. I'm just moving faster. I'm just doing everything faster and I don't have to do it faster if I did lay my stuff out. And
so is what you're saying, because I want to make sure, because we're getting off topic here. Now we're therapizing, right? And we don't
okay,
do that with control, right? Because
right.
really the main thing here, so we made a 70% improvement. What is it going to take again? I want you to just really clarify what it's going to take to make that a 10.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know what you said a moment ago, but I want you to be able to give it to me again, because we have the I will be there on time with a little bit of time to spare was the original goal that we were setting, right? We made that to 70% about, right, where we stopped on the resultometer. So what is it that's going to make that a 10 for you?
Leaving 10 minutes earlier than I normally leave.
All right.
That's by 15 minutes is plenty of time. So I can get so if I have an appointment at 6 a.m., I can leave at 10 till 6. And I can get there at 5:57 to 5:58,
So you
59.
don't have a big commute anyway.
No, not really. No.
Oh my
Um,
God. 10 minutes is, yeah, you're right. 10 minutes is not a commute, my friend.
You're
Take my
therapizing.
dog on a longer walk, for God's sakes. Um,
Anthony, you're therapizing.
so, so 10 minutes. You want to be able to give yourself 10 minutes. That's what you're looking for then. And that's how you'll know is when you've got yourself that extra 10 minutes. So you're saying if right now, if you need to be there at 6 o'clock, you want to be able to leave 10 minutes before that, or you want to be able to leave 10 minutes before you're actually supposed to be leaving, which would then mean, 20 minutes before 6 o'clock. Right? I mean, which of those things are you
If I
talking
left,
about?
yes, um, between 20 till to 15 till
Okay.
would be 100%. Would be a 10 out of 10.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and put your fingers on up there. Let me talk to your fingers. Center your camera just a little bit more so I can see them a little bit better. I don't have any way to pin this that I know of, so we're just gonna do the best I can here with seeing. How did you feel? So when we were done last week, you can set that back down for a second. So when we were done last week and you went about doing what it is that you do, going about your week, did you notice that you had to concentrate or really kind of work on focusing on what it was you wanted, or did it become, or was it just a little bit easier for you now and natural? I want to kind of.
It was not a struggle whatsoever. It was easier. It was definitely easier.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, jeez. I'm trying to adjust my cushion a little bit. I'm sorry. There we go.
Make yourself comfortable. No. All right. So let's go ahead then. And is there anything else that you want that you can think of? Yeah, we'll just leave it where we are right now because we're going to get together again next week. We're going to see how how much more complete the work is, right? I mean, because I think that we need to acknowledge the amount of headway that you made, right? We need to make sure that part that is helping this to happen is acknowledged for that, like we talked about. And I think you're doing a good job with that. And you will start to find that sometimes I think we mentioned that having, when we learn to apply this to ourselves and we can have these conversations with the crew member, so to speak, there are times that we can just. Have you ever raised children?
We had a foster daughter for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so I don't know how young they were when you were able to when you had her, but
15.
There's a way that you speak with kids to help them understand, but there's also boundaries that need to be put into place, right? And there's times that
Yes.
it takes that ability to go, you know what, this is just, you don't run into the street sort of thing, right? And being able to recognize when you need to address those crew members in a way that is going to encourage, or in a way that just says, all right, enough is enough, because we know it's right. And I want you to be able to begin to feel more comfortable having those sorts of conversations kind of out loud with that when you're experiencing it. I know that when I was starting to make changes with the system, I would vocalize when I was going through a change. That whole idea of not getting frustrated when someone went flying by at 60 miles an hour in the 20-mile-an-hour school zone, right? And almost smashing my little dog. It's like it would really upset me to no end, and now it doesn't bother me. Right. And being able to acknowledge my crew members who are going, it's a lot nicer just to be able to watch this go by rather than get upset about it, and because I can't do anything about it anyway, right?
Yes.
And so now it no longer being an issue, right? And being able to acknowledge that and have those kinds of conversations, that's the important part of this, is being able to teach you how to do that. And so, just pay attention to what we do through here, and just like you do when you're deconstructing things for other people, it's the same thing you're doing through this process with yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So let's have hands on up here. And let's see a wiggle, wiggle, wiggle of all the fingers there and thumbs as well. Let me see where we were last time. Okay. So, and again, just like last time, I'm going to be speaking to your subconscious mind. I would like your conscious mind to either pay attention or wander off into wherever it wants to go, that perfect place that it may feel safe. But I would like to speak to the part of Matt's subconscious, that same part that I spoke to last time, that part that is in charge of this timekeeping ability, this ability to make it to places on time, the part that made the changes that we've experienced through the week. And so if that part could go ahead and choose any finger or thumb on either one of those hands and give me a nice, clear yes response now, please. Perfect. And if that same part could go ahead and give me a no response on that same hand with another finger or thumb. Now, thank you. Perfect. Okay. And did you do that consciously, Matt?
No.
Choose those consciously? Good. And so now speaking to that part, first I would like to say thanks for the work that you've done in helping to commit to the changes, these new patterns that Matt's been experiencing. This has been a great stride forward. Are you willing to continue with this new strategy that's proving to be a better, well, great. That's a quick yes. And so are you able to help create a padway, a 10-minute padding in this new pattern for yeah, no. Okay. Well, that's pretty clear. So first I'd like to say thanks for the change that you've made. I'm not going to ask you to make any different changes. Are you willing to continue with this pattern, this new pattern that's perfect? So I'm going to say goodbye to that. Matt, I'm going to speak to it. I want to just see if we can get someone else involved here, just because that part's not willing to create that kind of a padding. It may not be its ability to do so. So we're going to jump in another way here. I'd like to speak to any part of Matt's subconscious mind that could be in charge of the ability to help Matt actually show up early. That part that creates, well, gosh, I wouldn't even know how to. So, Matt, let's just shake out for a minute, Matt. Let's just talk consciously here for a moment. So you were aware of what was going on there. The part that made the changes isn't willing to create that padding for you. Do you think, what do you think consciously? This is a little different. I generally wouldn't do this, but so do you think there's a part that needs to be helped to do that? Or is that a part that the captain, you consciously need to be in charge of saying that this is what on time is for now on is 10 minutes early, and just being able to drive the ship in that direction and taking control over that and taking responsibility for it, and seeing how the crew members are responsive in following that directive, right? I mean, it takes the responsibility off the crew and puts it 100% on you, the captain, to say, listen, 10 minutes early is actually what we consider to be on time now, right? On time used to be on time. Now on time is 10 minutes early. And maybe just seeing how consciously directing that towards the crew, seeing how that goes for the next week. What does that sound like? How does that feel when I say that? How does that feel? Tell me what's happening.
That feels like, if I'm thinking consciously, that feels like willpower, which I know is a fleeting resource. It's weird because I don't know if this is conscious or subconscious, but I'm getting like a message of there's some kind of thrill in racing against the clock that I'm experiencing.
Okay.
And And consciously, what I know is that because I can catch a plane, you know what I mean? No problem. I can do that no problem. And like I can, if I move the goal line myself, like I can be, super on time. For instance, if I move it to say like I want to get there early enough to work out, which would, I need to say 40 minutes, and then I'll end up getting there like 20 minutes early, and then thinking like, oh, I don't have time to work out. Here I go again. But I'm 20 minutes early. So then that's what that's what I'm thinking. If we're consciously thinking about it, there's some kind of thrill, or some part of me that thinks that I work better under pressure.
Okay.
So I have to be under pressure all the time.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm starting to understand. I'm getting a picture of what you're saying here. All right. That gives me something to go for. So let's go ahead and figures on up. Good. Deep breath. Relax those shoulders on down. This gives me a great direction, and I appreciate that. That's the insight that I was looking for. Because we know, actually, we know that it doesn't create any kind of of anything other than an anxiety around being late. So it's not exhilaration. It may be, but maybe more to the sense of, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. I want to speak to that part of math that is creating that sense of exhilaration around being late, about having to be under pressure to be on time. That creates that need for that. And if that part could go ahead and choose any finger or thumb and give me a nice clear yes. Okay, good. Nice clear yes on that hand. Good. Middle. Certainly. If that same part could go ahead and give me a nice signal for no, please, on that same hand. On the same hand, please. And if we want to choose that other hand for yes and no, that's okay with me too. Okay, so there's a good no. Index finger. So let me clarify again. Can I have a nice clear yes signal on that hand, please? Good. And so now speaking to that part, this is the part that's in charge of that need for kind of creating that exhilarating feeling of I need to be on time. And if I'm running late, it adds pressure, and I do well under pressure. Is that the part that we're great? And are you willing to help Matt have a better experience with this the whole crew is going to benefit by being able to do the mornings calmly, show up calmly, and be early. Is that something that you're willing to change and find a better tool, a better way to meet that need? Great. And so are you willing to go ahead and make those changes now? Okay. Do you understand what the benefits are of making these changes? Great. And so are you the one who's in charge of being able to make the changes? So with the understanding of the benefits of making the changes, are you willing to make those for him today in order to have a better experience? Okay, good. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and I'm going to allow you to choose those new tools, create those new pathways that are going to make this new pattern more accessible and just easy for everybody to just go into to process with. So 1, 2, and 3. And once that's done, once those changes have been made, I'd like a nice clear yes signal. Fantastic. And so now, Matt, is what I want you to do is, well, for speaking to that part, I want to say thanks for the changes that are made. And I'm going to allow Matt to have his experiences through the week of what it's like to show up on time with extra padding. And so thanks for making those changes. Okay. And Matt, I want you, Matt, to go about your business now. I want you to be able to go out there and just like before, I want you to start to live your life. We're going to talk to this part again next week. It's agreed to make the changes. How you feeling?
I feel good. That was kind of intense.
It's a little bit different when we have negotiations to do, or things that I didn't clear up right away in the conversation, and it's I want you to experience what it's like to have the 10 that you're looking for, right? I mean, 7 is great, but 10 is where we want, right? And it's one of the things that we need to really remember in this and all the work that we do like this is that it's the work. It's never that it hasn't worked. We haven't completed the work oftentimes, right? I mean, even with this, we've made a great stride forward, but there's yet a little bit of path to be cleared, and that's completely acceptable. And it's you should feel really proud. You should be patting yourself on the back. I mean, that's a really huge stride forward, right? I mean, think if you were a student who was struggling to get by, and all of a sudden you were getting a 70% on your test. Mom and dad would be pretty damn proud. Right?
C's get degrees.
What's that?
C's get degrees.
Yeah. Hey. But I mean, but I want you to recognize that, right? I mean, because oftentimes
I do.
Forget that we are the ones who need to blow our own horn, that we're the ones who are responsible for recognizing the changes that we are attempting to create in our own life. We can't go around expecting other people to recognize those really positive things. Especially, this isn't one of those that may affect people negatively. I don't know, because I don't know all the people in your life. But oftentimes when we go to make these sorts of changes, is what will happen is as we're changing, they have to change too.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they aren't down with that. And so they'll pull you back into old behavior sort of patterns. This, I don't think, is one of those where a lot of people are going to pull you back into it, because most people don't like to run late. So we're going to see how you do through the week. I want to see the next level of success that you gain here. I think I've got you all set up for next Monday at 4:00 again. And I mean, that's even with the time change in place. Or at least the time change in place here. I don't know. Do you have a time change there?
Yeah. Our last one, apparently. Yeah.
I am hoping so here as well. So at any rate, we will talk to you then next week. Thanks for. Do you have any questions?
No, I have I have an industry knowledge of this stuff, which allows me to, surmise kind of what's going on. And beyond that, I don't really want to ask anything specific, because I don't want it to be like explaining a metaphor and then it, you know what I mean? So I want to,
absolutely. I got you.
I want to keep it like it is.
The story. Perfect. I said, I feel you. Yeah, absolutely. So then is what we'll do is we'll end it here, and I will, you can stick on for a moment. We're going to end this live piece, and thank you, sir, for participating, and we will talk to you next week.
I'll say this. I, when I had heard of like those type, the idiomotor responses, and I would hear them, and I would hear them in good faith, because, they would be taught by people I respected, and I could tell they believed in it, but I would always be like, and it's very real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
So
this is a great, this particular system, the control system in particular. I mean, I always did a little bit of stuff with idiomotor work, but the way that it is brought in and utilized with the control system is it's unique, and it's yeah, anybody can do it, but there's a skill to do it in a way that gets quick change without a lot of obstacles in the way. Um,
yeah,
and I think that Tim did a great job in creating that system. So that's why I like to share it with people, and demonstrate just how easy change can be, because I mean, that's our motto: keep it super simple. We don't need to make it hard on everybody.
right.
So,
Yeah,
all right.
I, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it as well. It makes my job much more enjoyable. Plus, I don't have to talk to a drooling person on the other side of me. Ugh. Anyway, we'll talk to you next week, Matt.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.